Hi, everybody. Stop complaining about the longest day. Listen and talk about it later. When we speak about D-Day, many people immediately think of the movie The Longest Day. But here, on this ground, the movie takes on a deeper meaning. For me, The Longest Day, produced in 1962, is a lot more than a war movie. It is a documentary and also a product of its time. It was made only 17 years at the end of World War II in Europe. The world was then in the middle of the Cold War. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were extremely high. The presidential contest between JFK and Richard Nixon had just taken place. The failure of Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, with the loss of 1,400 natives trying to feed their nation from communism, was very embarrassing for the United States. Shortly afterward, Kennedy met Nikita Khrushchev, leading to rising tension over Berlin and the construction of the Berlin City Wall on August 13, 1961. By 1962, the world was moving dangerously close to nuclear confrontation. So, when this film was produced, it was not only telling the story of 1944, it was also speaking to the fears and political realities of the 60s. At that time, many Americans understood the war mainly through the Pacific Theater. Pearl Harbor had deeply marked the American memory. Japan aggression was often seen as the principal enemy. Europe felt distance, and remember, many Americans are German roots. For families in the United States, understanding why their son and loved ones had to cross the Atlantic to fight and die there in place like Normandy, in somehow killing their best friend, neighbors, families, really need explanations. This is one of the role the movies does very well. The producer, Darryl Zanuck, had several objectives. First, the movie explained why fighting in Europe was necessary. It presented the invasion not as expansionism, but as a defense of freedom. It shows the massive American logistic effort, the ships, the planes, the equipment. For audience in 1962, this reinforced the idea that American involvement overseas had been justified, both politically and economically. Second, the movie speaks directly to France, and here in Normandy, this mattered deeply. It emphasizes that liberation was a shared effort. Americans, British, Canadians, Free French forces. Not a single Soviet landed on those beaches. The film also highlights the French resistance. Before the landing, the resistance was small and often overshadowed by collaboration. Remember, when Gerald Patton was interviewed after the war by a French journalist who asked him his feeling about the French resistance, he answered, "What? Before D-Day, France had over 40 million collaborators and 50,000 resistance. After D-Day, the numbers were reversed." The movie participates in shaping that collective memory. Third, the movie indirectly answered the Soviet narrative. The Soviet Union strongly claimed that if they participated to World War II, that was to defeat Nazi Germany almost alone, that it had liberated the death camp and stopped and killed Hitler. Without the Red Army, the world would speak German today. The Longest Day movie reminds audience that the Western Allied opened a second front here in Normandy at an enormous cost. It adopted a semi-documentary style to reinforce that historical claim. It also makes an important distinction. Nazis were not all Germans, and Germans were not all Nazis. As we look around us today, it is important to remember what the movie tried to show. The sacrifice of very young men who crossed the Atlantic to land on foreign and unknown shore for the cause of freedom. In 1962, this message also had contemporary meaning. President Kennedy already began increasing American military involvement in Korea. Hundreds of special forces were deployed, followed by thousands of military advisors in the year that followed. This action required political support by reminding Americans of what had been called the Good War. The movie helped legitimize ongoing commitment in the name of world peace. Of course, the movie is not perfectly accurate. Some scenes were dramatized. The famous story of John Steele caught on the church steeple in St. Mary-Église was made for a cinematic impact. But every war film makes choices. Even Saving Private Ryan, directed decades later by Steven Spielberg, contained historical approximation, just to be nice. No film can reproduce reality exactly, and I'm not sure anybody wants to see the real reality of war. What The Longest Day did was make this landscape understandable to millions of viewers who would never have seen it in person. By casting well-known actors, the filmmakers help audience connect unfamiliar French villages and beaches with recognizable faces. It became a bridge between memory and history. The movie teaches us a lot. Guys, for more, come and join us on our guided tours.